are going to go ahead and kick off. Welcome to the Trauma Informed Care Task Force. It is great to be with you all. My name is Zeke Cohen. I am co-chair of this task force with the amazing Keisha Edwards, director of the Mayor's Office of Children and Family Success. And we are thrilled to be with you on this stormy Thursday. Couple of things real quick before we kick off. As a reminder, this meeting is being recorded. If you would like to speak, please use the raise hand function and then just take yourself off of mute. Today, and if you could just pop the agenda in the chat, we are going to begin with a quick rounds question that we're going to do in partners. We are then going to hear from Dr. Phil and Delegate Boyce about who they are. And then we're going to go right into the subcommittee groups in order to continue to work on our action statements. Our hope is that by next task force meeting, we have completed action statements for each of our subcommittees. I did want to give a big round of props to Dr. Steven Zinn over at the University of Maryland Children's Hospital in the psychiatry division. They have started a trauma-informed center, and really excited for the work that Dr. Zinn is doing in advancing trauma-informed work within that center. And I know that the subcommittee that's focused on hospitals and medical centers developing stronger connections, that there's a lot of good work happening in that space at University of Maryland, of course, at Hopkins, at Mount Washington. But again, did want to give some props to Dr. Steven Zinn. I don't know if folks saw, I think I sent it today in the Baltimore Sun, but they just kicked off their center. So congratulations for that. With that, we are going to go quickly. Dr. Zinn, do you want to just say like 30 seconds about the new center?
Sure. First of all, thank you for that acknowledgement. You know, we've been trying to listen to the community, and mental health, as everybody on this task force knows, has COVID's taken a real toll on mental health. There have been a real shortage of inpatient beds for teenagers, for adolescents with mental health issues, psychiatric issues. And so we were able to work with the hospital and the community to create something that I think is unique, and that I would offer once COVID totally disappears. It'd be worth coming for a short tour, because we created an environment that is not only kid-friendly, but it definitely focuses on the issues of ACEs, and there are opportunities for these young adults, these teenagers, to make decisions, to play a role in their treatment. And that's something that is very new, very novel. And the whole facility is focused on having the patients be partners instead of just being patients in a hospital. So it's a wonderful facility, and I would love the opportunity to show it off to any or all of you as time allows in the coming months. So thank you.
Awesome. Congratulations on the new center. And I think, speaking for myself, but also I think many folks on this task force would love to come see it and do a tour. And I think that there will be really strong opportunity as we hopefully emerge from COVID to check out your center, of course, the trauma center at Mount Washington Hospital that Dr. Gavin is in charge of. I think we have a great opportunity to really connect and see what we've all got going on. So again, appreciate the work. I'm now going to turn it over briefly to Anne, who's going to introduce our rounds question for today.
All right, we're switching things up just a little bit today. We are going to do like a little bit of one-on-one get to know you. We know we do the big group get to know you, but we're going to split into pairs today. And we are answering pretty like basic questions, though you can expand it if you would like to expand further. So I've put the questions in the chat. I will also share my screen so you can see them that way. It should be 2 people in most groups. There may be 3 in a couple. And as people join late, they'll pop into groups. So you're going to have 5 minutes to really just get to know another person on the task force more one-on-one than in the groups. So are there any questions? If you don't remember these questions specifically, your name, what do you do, your favorite book or TV show, what do you do for fun, something you love about Baltimore, it's fine. You can answer whatever questions you'd like, but those are the ideas. All right, there are 33 people on this call right now. So I am opening up 16 breakout rooms right now, and we will call you back in 5 minutes. So at 5:42, I will call you back. And this should open up breakout rooms right now. Elder, are you able to join the breakout room? David, are you able to join the breakout room? Debbie, welcome back. David Fakunle is the person you're paired with, and I can't figure out how to get him to your room. So it may be that he is not able to get there. David, can you hear us? I'm happy to chat with you though, because I'm here. So
I would love to. And if David joins us, we could do that too.
Yeah, that sounds great.
Tell me, so you want to go first or you want me to go first?
Sure, I can go first. So I'm Anne, and my pronouns are she, hers, and I am the coordinator for the implementation of the Elijah Cummings Healing City Act. So it means I staff this task force, and then I also staff the trauma-informed care trainings that are happening in city agencies. And I also support the Healing City Baltimore movement, which involves community members and individuals and organizations who are working towards healing in community. I was originally a school teacher. I taught 2nd, 4th, 5th, and 6th grade in Baltimore. And I left the classroom and I came back to the classroom, and I just, always felt overwhelmed that I didn't know what I didn't know, but I knew I didn't have the skills I needed to adequately support my kids. And I knew I was a good teacher, but I also knew that I was like not meeting the need. One year I had 37 4th graders at one time, and it was just so overwhelming. And so I stepped back and thought about what I wanted to do to help change some of the wider systems. And so that's how I got connected with Zeke originally. Is he needed a fellow when he was first starting drafting this work. And I said, me. So yeah,
Are you enjoying it?
I am. I love it. It's exactly the type of work I wanted to be doing as far as interacting with community and being in community. And I get to work with all the helpers in Baltimore, like all the helpers. Okay, wait, but we only have 1 more minute. So tell me about you, Debbie.
So, I'm a nurse. I'm a child psychiatric nurse is my basic training, but I'm a professor at Hopkins, and I came for a research endowed chair, but I really was attracted to coming here because of Baltimore, because Baltimore reminded me a lot of Chicago, a small Chicago, and I've enjoyed the people here. And anyway, it's just been a real pleasure to be here and to work here and get to know people. And I'm really delighted to be on this committee and learn.
God. All right, I can't type and talk. I'm gonna give the 1 minute warning.
Go ahead.
And then what's one thing you like to do for fun?
Well, this is going to be pathetic. I probably, it was COVID, I'm trying to remember what I did before COVID, but probably my greatest joy is being with my kids, my adult kids and my grandkids. Although they don't live here. They live on the West Coast, and reading a good book and, just getting really sucked into a really good book. So I'm kind of boring.
No, I feel like COVID has brought us all back to the basics. I would say a good book for me, and my kids are all really young. I have 9, 6, and 2-year-old. And so I like to sleep in my spare time.
Totally. Someday I'm going to talk to you more because I want to learn so much more from you about what all those big things that you're doing in the city.
All right, I'm going to close all the rooms. And
Okay.
That. Welcome back.
Thank you.
Assignments were all random. So hopefully you got to chat with someone new. Some of you probably already know everyone, but it was totally random who you were paired with. This is great that some people are still talking, but I was a little worried people would be like, and we're done. We talked about our 3 questions and now we're done.
I have a question that I should know the answer to. Which email address do you have for me for the committee that I'm on? Because I think maybe I'm in separate email, because I have we don't even want to talk about how many email addresses I have, but so which one?
Erica, let me take a look while we're doing intros, and then I can get back to you, and you can tell me which one you want me to use.
Okay, because I'm like, where's that stuff? I see it in the WhatsApp, but I don't see any emails that have come, and I'm sure there have been about committee work, and I'm like, I'm missing it somewhere, so I want to try and catch up. Thank you.
Yep.
All right, welcome back. So we are now going to go right into get to know you. We've got 2 folks today. I'm going to go straight to Delegate Regina Boyce, and then we're going to go straight to Dr. Phil. So I'm going to pass the mic to my friend Regina.
Thanks, Councilman. So full disclosure, I hate talking about myself. I just do. I just do. So I fake pretty well. So I am Regina T. Boyce. I am a 17-year Waverly resident. I was born in Washington, D.C. In the year of the bicentennial, believe it or not. I am born to 2 Caribbean immigrants. My mother is from Jamaica and my father was from Barbados. So lived in D.C. until they divorced, and we lived in Rockville. So I actually grew up in Montgomery County, Rockville, until we moved to Baltimore County. Housing insecurity, unfortunately, if anybody lives or is from Montgomery County, is expensive. And even in the 90s, it was incredibly expensive. So we moved to Baltimore County, where I ended up going to 3 different high schools. I went to a high school in Montgomery County, and then we went to Catonsville. I went to Catonsville High School, and then we moved across the line. We, still didn't know about Baltimore, so we had moved, but it was across the boundary at Route 40. So I ended up graduating from Woodlawn High School, which was the, I think, best thing that ever happened to me, and something that impacted my life, because I came from Montgomery County, where there was a strong diversity. We had a West Indian community and culture, whether I was in Rockville or at my grandmother's house in DC. There was always somebody Chinese or Korean. There was always somebody from with Hispanic or Latino. There were always Africans. There were always Iranians, and there just was a mix. And so when I came to Baltimore, everything was so black and white. So Catonsville was, when I went, was probably 95% white, and about 5 to 10% black. And all the black people essentially came from the community that I lived in. And then we transferred to Woodlawn, and it was just like, oh, it was majority black, about, I say 85%. And yeah, it was just, and it's been something that has I think, followed me to date. My family, I have 2 sisters. A year and 2 weeks apart from my middle sister, and 11 years older than my little sister. Both live in Baltimore County. My mom is here in Baltimore County. She actually works for the state. She's a drug counselor. So all of my mom and my sisters are, I would say, public servants in their own right. My sister works for the IRS, which is muy importante, very important. And my little sister does a lot of youth advocacy. She does mental health and wellness work now. And so love my sisters. So my father's deceased. I am a Towson University graduate. I graduated a very long time ago, but I'm a kinesiology major, which is the study of human movement. I was once going to be a sports psychologist. That just changed because I decided I wasn't going to be an exercise physiologist. And so I worked at Hopkins University for 10 years in the athletic department, which is essentially how I got to the city. It's how I bought a house in the city, how I became involved with community work and community, and how I end up actually working for the city back in 2010. And worked there, and then worked for a nonprofit, Strong City Baltimore, as their director of adult education. And, we did non-native English language work, as well as adult basic education and GED work. Absolutely, positively love that work, and love given my own life and our own struggles, being either of immigrant status or even a working class status, and having a single mother who was, divorced. Things can be hard, and it's harder for adults, especially when those opportunities don't present themselves. So I have a deep passion of scaling people up, and whatever that looks like for them. Scale up for Regina is a different scale up for Debbie, but whatever that is, make sure people have I always say, time, space, and opportunity to be whoever they want, given resources. And where are those resources? How do they get those resources? Has always been important to me. I think which led me to this moment where now I'm an elected official, kind of doing all those same things, making sure people, I believe that if families aren't strong, communities aren't strong, our city isn't strong, and neither is our state. And so I think everything starts with the family unit, and families come with a lot of complications and a lot of traumas, whether they are known or unknown, whether we think they're trivial or not. They follow us for a long time. And I think this is why the task force is important to me, because we've seen how trauma has played out for so many, for so long. And and just doesn't, understanding its power, but understanding we can take that power back, and be healed and heal other people. Because, the thing we learn in church is that, when you are hurt, you hurt people, other people. And so if hurt people are hurting people, then I've got to heal me, because then heal people will heal people. Right. And that's where I think we all want to be. So I'm dealing with my own personal inner demons and traumas myself, so that I can be someone who can lead. I can't give from an empty cup. I can't serve from an empty cup, especially if I'm not well. And I'm learning that sometimes the hard way. And that's why I definitely want to be a part of this, because I want to have real conversations about how people hurting and how people hurt, and then how people hurt others, but how we can overcome it. And it means admitting there's trauma, and understanding that there still may be consequences due to that trauma, whether it's I was the person traumatized or I was the person causing the trauma. And so I'm really appreciative to be a part of all of this, and looking to not only grow as a group and as a city, and hopefully as a state and a nation, but it starts with me. It starts with me. And I think that's my time.
Thank you so much. Regina Boyce, who, in addition to everything she laid out, is just a real fighter and champion for people. And for the nerdy among us who follow Annapolis politics, really had a pretty amazing session, both in fighting for some critically important environmental legislation, but also holding the line around making sure our immigrant brothers, sisters, and siblings were not left behind. As we know that when the federal money, the ARPA money, the state money, often the city money, too often our undocumented folks were left off the table. And Regina and a small group of legislators were extremely clear that we would not do that in this last legislative session, and made sure that folks were taken care of and not left behind. And so I just really appreciate the advocacy and the work that you do, and glad to have you on the task force. And now to pass it off to Dr. Phil Leaf.
Okay, thank you. So I was actually asked yesterday afternoon to do this, and because I was originally going to be trying to do a video, but just agreed, because when you get asked to do something, and if you can do it, you try to do that. So first, can you post the poll? So I've been living in Baltimore since 1991. So if you please just say, do you know me or have you worked with me, versus you didn't know me before joining the task force, just sort of interested in what the distribution is. Came to Baltimore because I really had been working on another project when I was at Yale with people here, and really enjoyed and was amazed by the great people in Baltimore City. And these are community folks, not people at Hopkins. And so when I got an offer to come down here, I really wanted to do that. And so continued to work on that. Have a wonderful wife who's both much nicer, which isn't easy to do, than me, and also is much smarter than me. Love many of the same things that were mentioned about Baltimore, and when I just had the breakout conversation. And so how much longer for the poll, Ann? Can you bring up the results when you got it? Or okay, so about almost 2/3 of the people knew me before, which is what I thought. So what I'm going to do is I also hate talking about myself, so I'm going to demonstrate what I'm interested in doing rather than talking about it. So Ann, if you can bring up the first video.
I forgot to have it share sound. Give me 2 seconds. I'm going to reshare with the share sound. There we go.
So what is empathy, and why is it very different than sympathy? Empathy fuels connection. Sympathy drives disconnection. Empathy, it's very interesting. Teresa Wiseman is a nursing scholar who studied professions, very diverse professions where empathy is relevant, and came up with 4 qualities of empathy. Perspective taking, the ability to take the perspective of another person or recognize their perspective as their truth. Staying out of judgment, not easy when you enjoy it as much as most of us do. Recognizing emotion in other people and then communicating that. Empathy is feeling with people. And to me, I always think of empathy as this kind of sacred space when someone's kind of in a deep hole and they shout out from the bottom and they say, I'm stuck, it's dark, I'm overwhelmed. And then we look and we say, hey, you can climb down. I know what it's like down here, and you're not alone. Sympathy is, ooh, it's bad, no. You want a sandwich? Empathy is a choice, and it's a vulnerable choice, because in order to connect with you, I have to connect with something in myself that knows that feeling. Rarely, if ever, does an empathic response begin with "at least." Yeah. And we do it all the time. Because you know what? Someone just shared something with us that's incredibly painful, and we're trying to silver lining it. I don't think that's a verb, but I'm using it as one. We're trying to put the silver lining around it. So, I had a miscarriage. Oh, at least you know you can get pregnant. I think my marriage is falling apart. At least you have a marriage. John's getting kicked out of school. At least Sarah is an A student. But one of the things we do sometimes in the face of very difficult conversations is we try to make things better. If I share something with you that's very difficult, I'd rather you say, I don't even know what to say right now, I'm just so glad you told me. Because the truth is, rarely can a response make something better. What makes something better is connection.
Okay, so where I work is not the best place for making connections sometimes, but I've been working on a number of projects. When I first got here, we created the East Baltimore Child Development Community Policing, and so we've been doing responses to shootings of people of violence since about 1997, working with community folks to bring those things together. Also, when we had a couple of safe street programs, but the cities wanted more, I was able to write a grant. And I didn't run the Safe Street program. We gave the money to the Park Heights Renaissance, and community folks ran the program. But again, one of the collaborations is, as an academic, I can get access to some resources, and I really try to partner and turn them over to the other people, not run those things. We also have the Baltimore Trauma Response, which came out of one of the programs that we're sort of doing now, that Dr. Humphrey runs. We have the We Are Us Men's Movement. And so if you can bring on the second video, because again, what I try to do is really partner and be a partner with things where I can bring some assets. So here's another project I'm working on.
Community members took to the streets right outside of the school board headquarters today. It was a demonstration to send
Also make it louder.
Violence in city streets. The images of just
Phil, that's as loud as it goes.
All right, well, let me try for minutes, or if people can't hear it, we'll switch.
1 week in Baltimore, too often repeated week after week. Like this Saturday, another victim on a neighborhood street is dead. But also Saturday, we encourage the small thing. There must be a movement. Stop the marching on North Avenue. Predominantly African American men who are out there in the space. Andre Budley is one of the founders of We Our Us. We want to be a mirror of what it could be. An organization, an interfaith group of men, including some who have corrected their own paths. You graduated from Penn State, and I graduated from the state. Working in Baltimore streets, doing everything from conflict mediation to job access and counseling. Today, their message: there's no father in the home. Bring your son and your daughter to us. This is the means to help bring down city violence, and part of it is just presence. Budley describing one face of what is happening in Baltimore streets. We find that in Baltimore, if you find an individual They are another face.
It's about a group of men who's standing up to change the narrative of black men in Baltimore.
Dozens strong who go into the toughest neighborhoods and street corners with a program for change, peace, and Bundley says love.
I think the future can be bright. I just think that everybody has to have stake in the process of moving Baltimore forward.
Okay, so as a group, we've actually, by not going marching to the streets, we've gotten over 800 people jobs. And these are 800 people from the corners, and the jobs average over $14 an hour. We don't even try to bring jobs unless they're $14, $15 an hour. We've had people who actually have stopped their hiring other people because our people also don't turn over because we keep supporting them as their jobs. Many of the times this is their first honest work. And so this is some of the things that I'm not doing personally, but I'm involved with. And then two things that just came up today that may be of interest. Binia, which many of you know, now has a data week, and they're going to have a day. One of the last sessions on July 23rd is going to be focusing on the opportunities for youth, and particularly how we can get fewer youth involved in DJS, and how those involved in DJS can benefit from diversion programs. And then also there's about 400 students in Baltimore City Public Schools that are also involved in DJS, and both city schools, DJS, and the young people themselves are very concerned about them getting re-engaged. And so we're going to have some conversations with them to hear what their solutions are, and also facilitated some interactions with both people from city schools, DJS, and some of the community support programs that are working with them. So that's another thing that we can talk about later. But I think as the last person talked about, hurt people, and that nobody can do everything, but we can all do something. And I think the task force is really helping us understand what are some opportunities that we can really be doing to be involved in creating a healthy and healing Baltimore. So I thank everybody for the time.
Thank you so much, Phil. I am one of those, I guess, the 2/3 of the task force that knows you and has worked with you and admires you and appreciates you. So thank you so much for that presentation. And Renee Brune is like one of my favorite people in the whole wide world. So I just loved that video as a representation of who you are and who you try to be, which is so true. I also want to just say shout out to Regina. I think I saw you, did you do like a bilingual thing in your presentation? Like Regina, did you use like some of your native, which I thought was really, I've never seen that part of you. So thank you for sharing who you are and your story and how you got to Baltimore and your obvious love for your sisters and your mother. And so just thank you so much, Phil and Regina, for leaning in and opening yourself up to the task force. Job well done. Thank you. All right, so now it is time for us to roll up our sleeves and go into our committees. And we're going to really work on nailing down the action plans. And as you know, the action plans are critical because it really sets the frame for the actual recommendations and longer term planning that we want the committees to do. But before we kind of get into the long-term planning, we want to be able to communicate what is the parameters, what is the framework that the committee is using to determine what kinds of recommendations it will bring forward. So this is kind of a first things first. Sometimes you want to jump to the recommendations, and your action statement allows you to put a stake in the ground. First things first, tell us what the work is going to be, why we're doing this work in this frame of your committee, and what you kind of see it becoming. And then the plans are the act and the recommendations are the how. So we are working on the what and we are preparing for the how. So we're going to break into our committees, and we have about 45, 50 minutes, which is great, which means we should get some work done, some real good work done this evening. On the agenda, which is in the chat, we have some progress reports on the action statement. So in the section on the agenda, you can see where we've started. I call them in progress because we're going to work on it a little bit more this evening, but it gives you a sense of where people are. We're going to go into our committees and we're going to further refine our action statements. We want to get as really close, because next time we come back in 2 weeks, we're going to actually share those statements and get feedback from the larger task force. So this is a really good time for you and your committee members to roll up your sleeves and really think about this, because when we come back 2 weeks from now, we want to have a near final. We are in progress mode this meeting, but we are working towards near final for our next meeting. So I think that we're kind of ready, Ann, unless there are anybody who has questions before they go into committee that they want to get clarification. But if we have no questions, then we'll go into the committee. So I just want to open the floor up, and the chat is up and available. But if anybody has questions about what we want to accomplish tonight, please let me know before we break out. And I think Councilman Cohen, you've volunteered to like jump into some committees and help people a little bit if they need it. So you're going to be kind of walking around like you would in a classroom just to see how people are doing. And if folks would like Councilman Cohen to come in, send us a note in the chat and we'll send him to your group so that you can debrief with him if you want to talk about this a little bit more. But if we have no questions from the group, and if everybody is clear about what they're going to be doing next in their committees, then I think we are ready to rock and roll, Ann.
Awesome. All right. Some of you have been assigned to groups. There's been a lot going on the back end, though, with videos and first breakout groups. So I'm going to open the rooms. You should also be able to select your room. I'm hoping, if you're not assigned.
Are we supposed to be moving?
I was wondering who was going to be the
People
first.
are moving, but Tisha, you should be assigned to Ruth. I'm going to send you there now if you're not.
Okay, I'm waiting. The magic of Zoom.
Sending you. Steve, remind me, you're in the medical group, clearly.
Right,
Okay.
right. So is Debbie, who I still
Debbie,
see.
I'm sending you there too. All right. And I'm not sure who's on the iPhone. Alonzo, you're with youth, is that right? I'm going to send you there now.